expecting what he's going to do is one of the most dangerous things. And I think we've been holding that with Belal Muhammad his last few fights, is expecting him to just grind to the takedowns and get to a dominant position and just grind out 5 rounds. And he hasn't done that, and it's hard to trust him to do that again.
Welcome to First Strike, only on VSiN, the sports betting network. Here's your hosts, Dave Ross and Rob Moreno.
We are back, First Strike here on VSiN. Dave Ross going to be joined again by Rob Moreno here, El Modelo in just a little bit. But Shane Thurston back in the program today. Shane, Just Win Bets, and our family over there, our friends at Just Win Bets. Great to have you back in the program, Shane. First of all, interesting card this weekend. Remember the name. We all know the name, Belal. Belal Muhammad back in there, main event against Gabriel Bonfim. What do you make of this? This is kind of one of those cards sandwiched in between UFC Macau last week, where we ought to adjust the body clocks and get up super early and watch a fight card in China. Then we've got the big Freedom 250 coming on. And it feels like this card might be, Shane, kind of sneaking in there a little bit, and maybe not enough attentions have been paid to it. Have you found some areas that you think might be profitable if the people are already looking back or looking ahead to Freedom 250 next week?
I feel like it's definitely being snuck in there. I mean, I was just looking today, and there's still some fights that don't have prop bets up and stuff like that on some books. So it feels like even in that regard, right, that it's still getting snuck in there. But like all of them are on there for the 250 fights, so like you can bet those like all day, right? So it's like it's a little crazy. It's getting snuck in there, and it kind of sucks that we had to wake up super early to the event in China, and then now we are blessed with a Belal fight.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's interesting because we are seeing some money come in on Bonfim as you and I have this talk here midweek before we get to Saturday night in Las Vegas. Obviously, when you're fighting at Apex, you're going to have that smaller octagon. You would think that would favor a guy like Belal, who, let's be honest, that's what he wants to do. He wants to chain wrestle you if he can and really grind out potentially 25 minutes. And I think that's why we're seeing the total sitting at 3.5. When you look at this fight, Shane, do you look at it and say, all right, it is kind of that simple of a handicap? Belal, if he's going to get it done, he's going to wear out Bonfim, try to get in that gas tank. And if you're Gabriel, you have to really figure out a way to separate, keep space against a guy like Belal Muhammad and utilize your hands in any way, shape, or form that you can and try to make this a boxing match. And if so, do we have a live dog scenario in this fight?
I think there is a live dog scenario in this fight. I like Bonfim in this fight. He's got pretty good takedown defense. I think he's like sitting around 76% takedown defense, which is pretty good. But he hasn't really fought anybody on Belal's level of wrestling either. But I mean, he's a pretty dangerous grappler himself, man. He's got 4 submission wins in his last 7 fights. So he's not scared to grab a neck out of nowhere too. So I think that's going to like wear off Belal a little bit there. That is concerning, though, is that step up in competition that he's facing Belal. And the next thing that's a little concerning about Gabriel is he's never went 5 rounds before. So if this goes deep, how is his cardio going to hold up? And how is he going to go against somebody who has fought for 5 rounds multiple times? And like how he's going to deal with that? And that's going to be a big question mark there.
Shane, I'm right there with you. And that's why I was surprised that it was lined at 3.5 and not 4.5. Like that tells me something there that maybe we don't think of Belal Muhammad as a finisher, right? I don't think that's the way we look at it. But the gas tank is a real issue for Bonfim, it seems like, and it could really be tested in this instance. So because of that, you would think that Belal's not going to be in a rush to do anything, right? He's going to use that smaller octagon to close space and make this as grimy a fight and wear on the cardio and run clock. And the longer it goes, it favors the former champion. Look, in the JDM fight, if you want to go back to the JDM fight, his hands are really good, even in defeat. I thought his hands looked good when he couldn't get the takedowns. Now, if Bonfim's pretty good with that takedown defense here, Shane, what about the hands of Belal? Is there a chance, not that he'd want to fight Gabriel on his terms, but can he hold his own if this fight stays standing?
I think he can hold his own pretty well, but I think Bonfim's just a younger, more explosive fighter, and I think if it stands standing, that's exactly what Bonfim wants, and that's not what Belal wants. He's on his best when he leans on his wrestling, like you said before, and he's got elite wrestling in the UFC, right? So it's just that's what he does, and that smaller cage does benefit him. But like I said earlier, I do think Gabriel Bonfim can win this, and I'm betting on my money on him. I think he does get the upset. I kind of see it. Kind of like the last time I was on with you guys when I was here with the Israel Adesanya fight. It's a younger up-and-coming guy against that grizzled veteran. I'm not saying Bonfim's going to knock him out or anything like that. Belal's very hard to finish. I think he's only been finished like once in his career, and that was like a decade ago. So so he's very hard to finish. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I think it's worth some money to put on Bonfim here to win.
Because I'm looking at this thing, Shane. When I see that total at 3.5, now it's juiced heavily to the over, minus $1.88 as we talk here midweek. So that's subject to change as we get closer and closer to Saturday. But because of that, of what that's telling us at 3.5 and not being lined at 4.5, where does the stoppage come if the under is in play? Would it be Bonfim earlier somehow getting out Belal Muhammad, or do we think that Belal can get into that gas tank within 3 rounds and possibly finish Bonfim, say, early in the 4th?
Based on Bilal's track record, I don't see him finishing somebody within the first 3 rounds, but it could happen, right?
Yeah.
I think it would have to probably be Bonfim getting that early finish if the under does hit. But I mean, because if you look at Belal, I mean, a majority of his wins, I think he only has four or five finishes in his 30-fight career. So I mean, he's pretty much a decision guy, decision merchant there that's going to take you deep in the rounds and just make you suffer and wear down.
Well, you nailed that, because when you look at method of victory here, right, for Belal Muhammad to win via decision, you can get plus money here, plus $1.50. Bonfim to win by decision, again, going all 5 rounds here in a potential for a main event, potentially 5 rounds, 25 minutes, plus 450 on the Bonfim side. What's interesting to me is you look at the KO or the submission prop for a guy like Bonfim, it's pretty closely lined. It's plus 350 for the KO for this slight underdog at plus $1.02 for Bonfim just to win the fight, but plus 350 via KO, plus 450 via submission. So it's telling me that, hey, there's a really a chance there almost for, if you want to play inside the distance, if you really don't think this is going to go 25 minutes, that there's multiple ways that Bonfim can get him out of there. Now, the Muhammad side here, a little bit longer, obviously, to get the sub at about 8-1. And that's also surprising that the KO prop, we don't think of him as a KO guy, is much shorter than the 8-1 KO excuse me, submission prop here, 8-1 for Belal. Like, I just look at Belal via decision and maybe Gabriel inside the distance as the better bets there if you're looking for some of those props. Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, I see it the exact same way, for sure. For sure. If you're looking for value bets, I think that's the exact that's a great play.
Yeah, and that's only the ways on either side that I could play it with Bonfim, solid plus money inside the distance, and Belal via decision here at plus $1.50. In the co-main event, Edmund Shabazian's taking on Brandon Allen. And Brandon Allen, you look at that he always feels like a title contender in waiting, always kind of there, never quite tip of the spear, but really good, very well respected, and very well rounded. Shabazian coming in here as the dog, but not a massive dog here in this one against BA. What type of fight do you think we see playing out in potentially 15 minutes of octagon time?
So Edmund, I mean, he kind of has like the same type of fights, it seems like, every time. He comes out very strong and then comes out with a flurry of strikes and stuff like that. But then he tends to fade in the second and third round. At least that's what I've noticed about him. And I think if Allen can just weather the storm in that early first round into that first round, I think that he can take this fight later in the fight. And I think I like kind of Allen to win here by submission, like in the second or third round, late in the fight, maybe, or even parlay him with like the over. I think the over's still at 1.5.
Yep.
Parlay him money line and the over line. I don't know what that would be at total right now, but that could be probably close to even money based on the odds I'm looking at. But yeah, Edmund, man, he starts off fast, but it seems like he doesn't have the gas tank to continue down starting after those fast starts.
With you on that. And by the way, the over right now, 1.5 for this 3-round fight here is juiced heavily to the over at minus $1.88. Money line price here, as we mentioned, Brendan Allen about 218. The comeback in Shabazian is about plus $1.80. If you like the under, that's plus $1.45 if you think that can get done early. But again, correlated play here, Shane, that if you like the Shabazian side, you would look to the under. Cardio could be an issue. If you like the BA side, look to the over.
Yes, I agree. What is like the fight doesn't go the distance? Because I think that could be a possibility as well. Because I think Allen could submit him late, or you get like a ground and pound type of situation late in the fight as well.
Don't see that prop yet line. As you mentioned, some of these props are so, they wait for the last second. We can get all those we want for next week at Freedom 250. And yet we're still waiting on these to populate here in Las Vegas and beyond. But that's an interesting approach there, Shane, that you pointed out. So people, you got to be Johnny on the spot, wait for those props to come out, that the fight doesn't go the distance. And I kind of like where your head's at, because Shabazian, the same thing. You kind of worry about the cardio the longer the fight goes, kind of like we're talking about with Bonfim in the main event. So fight not to go the distance, by the way, Rob Moreno is going to join us, did find minus $1.90 on the co-main right now. So again, the over is $1.88, but not to go the distance is minus $1.90. So I think people are thinking what you are, Shane. Third round is where you might be looking for a finish, and you'd look to the Brendan Allen side for possibly a third round finish.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Allen's a submission specialist there. I mean, he's got in his professional career, I think 14 submissions throughout his professional career. I mean, that's pretty strong, right? So, I mean, I think he's got like 7 in the UFC alone. So, I think if he wears down that gas tank of Edmond and then just wears on him and gets a late submission somewhere in the third round.
I can't wait to talk to Rob about this because he's got a thing, Shane, for the Taffa brothers. Like whenever you get a Taffa brother in there, you just kind of, it's an auto fade that you look at. Now look, Junior Taffa is in this fight here against Ivo Baranowski. And right now we're seeing that Ivo is a massive favorite. About 375 is what you got to lay here. The comeback here on Junior is almost 3-1 plus 295. And how about this for a 3-round potential fight? The total is sitting at 1.5. If you really think this is going 7 minutes and 31 seconds, you can get plus 260. So, Shane, woo, everybody expects this to be a quick piece of work for Ivo against Junior Taffa.
I see it the same way. Ivo, man, that dude's a straight killer, dude. That dude's a straight killer. And he's got a chin, man. He's got a crazy chin. 2 fights ago, he fought Aslan, and Aslan was piecing him up pretty good.
Yep.
And he was just standing there taking it, and then finally he caught him with that right hook, and then boom, straight lights out. Where Taffa could probably trade and blows with him and stuff like that. But with Taffa, he's terrible on the ground.
Yeah.
And Ivo, he does have a judo background that we haven't seen yet in the UFC because he has all first round finishes. And actually, in all of his career, he has all first round finishes. So for some reason, and I think after the last fight, at the post fight interview with Joe Rogan, or was the fight before? It might have been the Aslan fight too. He was talking about how he wants to show his judo background in the UFC eventually. And this could be the fight where he could take him down to the ground, right? So I think it might be worth a little sprinkle on him to win by submission or get him down there.
If you're trying to hold your breath for 7.5 minutes to get that over at solid plus money, would you be rooting for the takedown and hope that Taffa can survive off his back to at least get into a second round to see that judo? And if he can't execute it, that could elongate the fight a little bit. Or do you think it'd be a hot knife through butter if he gets Taffa on the ground?
Based on what I know about Ivo there, I think it's going to be a hot knife through butter either way.
Either standing or on the ground.
Yeah.
Oh boy, not good news for Junior Taffa.
So I'm going to take him to finish. Obviously, Ivo to finish and either by TKO or submission, and then parlay that with his under, maybe even like not first, second, like in the first round. Obviously,
ooh,
it's like win by TKO or submission in first round.
Yeah, it does not look like the Taffa brothers right now. Kind of a fade spot here. Could be another one here. I'll be looking inside the distance here and fading Junior in this spot as well. Look, Bryce Mitchell, people can say what they want about him, Shane. He has not been the same guy in the last couple of years, certainly inside the octagon. But, we all know about, trying to pull twisters off and some of the things, unique things that when Bryce was really at the top of his game, he was doing things we hadn't really seen in the UFC in a long, long time. And now he's a dog against Santiago Luna here. And I'm seeing right now the price point's he's a favorite about $1.48, and the comeback here on Luna is plus $1.24. Should Bryce Mitchell be a $1.50 betting favorite here at this stage of his UFC career?
I do not think so. I think what part of the reason why is, Luna took this fight on a week's notice.
Yep.
So that's something to keep in mind here, right? So, and then Luna, this is a step up in competition for him. I will say that. This is only his third UFC fight, I believe. So he's getting that next step up in competition in the UFC. Mitchell, you got to think back. Remember Josh Emmett dropped him 2 fights ago, I think, or 3 fights ago, and then he lost to John Silva, and that's when he moved down weight classes. He went from 145 to 135, and then he beat a tough opponent and said, I can never say that last name. Nurmagomedov.
Either way.
I can never say their last name.
Yeah.
But he beat him. But if you remember that, he got dropped.
Yeah.
Mitchell did the first round of that fight. So, and then that's against Nurmagomedov, who had one other knockdown in his other 10 UFC appearances before that. He's not known for superpower like that, at least at that point in his career, right? So I'm really concerned about Mitchell's chin, right? So that's what's really concerning here. And then usually when you lose weight like that, you take some weight off your chin too, and that doesn't usually go against well. And then he's fighting Luna here, who had a first-round knockout in his UFC debut in Mexico. So I think I'm sprinkling some money on Luna to win by a knockout here.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to see Bryce Mitchell return to form, because I think it was pretty fun when he was making his ascent up the rankings. He's gotten really chinny, as you pointed out here, Shane. I mean, you can go back to the Josh Emmett fight and certain where you're like scary knockouts where you
Yeah.
looked at him in the octagon and went, "Wow, I really hope he's okay." And it seems like it's tough to get back to being a tough guy in there if your chin just goes. And I think you can make a strong argument that Bryce Mitchell's chin has seen the best days well behind him at this stage. And I'm with you. I don't think I want to be laying $1.50 price point here on Bryce Mitchell against anybody, let alone an up and comer who's got punching power. Does not feel like the right recipe here to back the favorite in Bryce Mitchell. I do want to look ahead very quickly, Shane. I don't know if you saw the consternation here. Apparently, Justin Gaethje was making comments about Ilia Toporia's ex-wife and saying, I would have left him too. He's so narcissistic, and to be in a room and have to hear that guy talk about himself would be nauseating. I'm paraphrasing here, but is that a good tactic a week and a half out from Freedom 250 to give Ilia Topuria a reason to dislike you and then really try to go in there as almost a 650 betting favorite and do damage to Justin Gaethje?
I don't think so. I mean, Ilia Topuria is already going to be pissed off because he has to give half his money to his wife, right? So he's going to be looking for some bonuses, right? Some fight bonuses. He's trying to get recruit some money.
Yeah, I'm like Justin, I get it. We're trying to sell fights and all those things. Let's keep out the personal taunts. When you do look ahead to that fight, though, and the only thing that I've said and noticed, obviously, in watching a lot of the stare downs and the lead up to this fight as the main event here in about a week and a half, is Gaethje does look like the physically bigger guy, right? Now, again, in MMA, we'll find out how much that really matters once you get inside that octagon and they close that door behind you. Could the size, the natural size advantage that Gaethje has, could that slow down that punching power by Topuria? We haven't seen him slow down against virtually anybody, including one of the best 145ers of all time, Alexander Volkanovski. We saw what he did to Max Holloway, is fluctuating from 55, 45, 70 these days. So he has beaten some bigger guys in their weight classes. Is the height weight advantage theoretically one that Gaethje can use to his advantage?
I think it'll be used to his advantage. It's going to make Topuria tougher to drop him for sure, but I still think Topuria is going to win this. I mean, he's, head and shoulders, I think, boxing skills wise over Justin Gaethje. And Gaethje's a hell of a boxer. He's a hell of a striker. So I think Topuria is still going to win this one. He is bigger, like you said, but like the reach is pretty much equal between the two, which is a big indicator there. But Gaethje is about 4 inches taller, I think, 4 or 5 inches taller, but the reach is about the same. I think Topuria is like 69, if I remember correctly. And then Gaethje's around 70.
Yeah.
So I think he can still get in there to get his strikes that he wants and still finish this thing like he wants to.
Shane, it's going to be something like we've never seen before because we've literally never seen it before at the White House, and what this atmosphere is going to be like. Like we're talking about Belal Muhammad in the main event against Bonfim this week. We know what the Apex is like, that it's muted. It's a different energy that's going to be in there. Sometimes you can account your handicapping that way. It is hard to know what the energy is going to be like. The reason why I bring that up is the total is sitting at 1.5 here. And as you mentioned, all these fights have already been lined weeks in advance, right? So you've got to look at this over, which is just slightly to $1.45, but 7.5 minutes for a potentially 5-round main event. It's telling us that the energy is, Gaethje, his natural instinct is, I just fight to the death, good or bad. Can I really try to slow him down and get him into a second, dare I say, a third round? How would you look at that from not knowing what the energy is going to be like the White House, but can they really temper and curb their enthusiasm to make this fight go longer?
I kind of like the over in that. If it's only at 1.5, I kind of like that because it's going to be a smaller venue because there's only going to be a few thousand around the actual octagon itself, and then you're going to have like a watch party, pretty much, a couple like 100 feet away at the out where the National Christmas tree sits. I'm in DC, so I know exactly where it is in the distance. So you're not going to see the cage. You might hear like a delayed roars from like the screens they're putting up back there. So I don't think it's going to be a super loud. It might be probably be a little bit louder than the Apex, which I think holds like 1,000 people, I believe. Yep. Right. So I think they're trying to get close to 5,000 around the octagon, which is crazy to do when you think about where they're putting this thing and the White House lawn there, which is not a big area.
Right.
I always thought when they were going to do in DC, I thought they were going to put it in the Capitol building in front of that because I think that'd be a cool site as well.
That would be very cool.
And then like that place is used to having huge crowds for inaugurations and things like that, right? So I thought that would be a better venue to get like a more hyped fan base around the thing. But it is cool having the White House. I mean, that's going to be a spectacle to see. Never seen it before. We'll see how it is. But I think it's definitely going to be more subdued than your typical like arena thing for sure.
This is something I've given prop to Dana White for forever, over a decade. Like, Fight Island, to come up with that idea. He's done these things. Apex, remember, that was a novelty in the COVID era. Like, he's done these things, and we've never seen some of these venues, and this will be a first. It'd be interesting to gauge how it goes here early. Maybe we can get a better feel before we get to the two title bouts. And then you got Alex Pereira trying to do something that's never been done in the history of the UFC, and that's become a 3-division champion, and trying to do it now at heavyweight against Cyril Gane, who's an interim champ. I really thought he was on his way to being champion before he three-stooged, Tom Aspinall and got himself removed from that fight. I thought it was a fight he was clearly winning. This fight's sitting at 2.5, Shane. And again, a quick cursory look, we're seeing right now about $1.12 on the Frenchman here, $1.08 on Pereira, which is telling me the money is pretty darn even right now on these two guys. Look, I am on record. I'm rooting for Alex Pereira. I think the story is amazing. I think my money is on Cyril Gane, and I can't believe I'm betting on a Frenchman over a Brazilian at the White House, but that's where I am here in 2026. What's your first kind of cursory glance at that main event?
It's going to be interesting to see, because Alex Pereira is going to be putting on, 40 pounds of weight. How much speed is he going to lose? If he doesn't lose any speed in his strikes, I think Alex Pereira can win this thing, right? So that's a big question mark, because you are going against Gane, who's just a naturally bigger guy.
Yes.
Right. So it's going to be interesting. And the other thing is, can he wear like, little swim goggles or something? So those eye pokes don't happen, because that tends to happen a lot with Gane.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the Aspinall fight. It happens a lot with him, I feel like.
It's frustrating because he's so talented, and yet he fouls, and there's a lot of fouls, and it's an issue in the fight game that we've talked about and we'll probably talk about for years to come. I don't know about the gloves, what they'll ever do, if they'd ever do anything about it, but he is kind of one of those culprits out there. You mentioned the weight, obviously, for Pereira moving up in weight now to heavyweight, and he is taking on a much bigger man in Cyril Gane here. If Gane stands and strikes, Alex Pereira is going to be the new heavyweight champion of the world and the first 3-division champ. Because of that, would you expect Gane to wrestle? And that's where the over 2.5 could come into play.
I think Gane's best method of victory is trying to get this thing to the ground, for sure. I mean, because Pereira is an elite kickboxer. I mean, there's very few in the world that are better than him, right? If any, right? I mean, he's literally one of the best kickboxers ever. So if he wants to trade blows with him standing up, I mean, that's going to be a recipe for disaster for Gane, right? He's going to have to try and get this to the ground. That's his only method of victory, I think.
I think you're right. And again, we'll see how this fight gets aligned as it goes. A slight right now juice to the over 2.5. Again, 5 rounds for this co-main event between Alex Pereira, Politan, against Cyril Gane, the Frenchman in there. Shane, great stuff as always. Again, a recap here. You're going to be on the Bonfim side in the main event against Belal Muhammad. You're looking to be Brendan Allen maybe later in the fight, if that's correct. We're fading a Tafa brother, Junior Tafa in this instance. And we're looking for the dog here in Santiago Luna against Bryce Mitchell. Did I get those official predictions correct?
Yeah, Luna, I think has a chance to win. I'm just going to put like a little sprinkle on that one. The other ones I'm putting a pretty significant, not probably like a 1-unit bet on. But there Luna, just because he's taken that fight in such short notice, and he's never stepped up in that thing. But I think with Mitchell's chin, it's worth a sprinkle of money on it.
Yeah, it might be. So he's probably not looking for a long day here at the Apex. It's going to be kill or be killed, maybe for the Brazilian. Very quickly, tell people where they can access your fine material here, Shane.
Yeah, so you can follow me on X at ShaneJustWinBet, or you can follow our main account at JustWinBetsBaby. You can also catch us on YouTube. We're growing like crazy on YouTube still. We got just over 13,000 subscribers on YouTube. We have bets for 20 different leagues around the world: soccer, basketball, football. We have a guy doing tennis right now for the tennis going on in France. We got it all. So if you're looking for bets that are free from great guys all around, come check us out. Just Win Bets, baby.
Shane, Just Win Bet. Singular, people. No S on the end of that here for bet. Shane, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate your time as always. Good luck in the card this weekend again at Freedom 250 in about a week and a half. Much more to get to here on this edition of First Strike. We've got El Modelo, Rob Moreno, coming up next.
You're tuned in to First Strike, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We continue First Strike here on VSiN. Dave Ross and Rob Moreno coming at you. Shane Thurston kind enough to join us here at the beginning of this show here, Rob. And I liked a lot of things that Shane had to say about this fight card coming up. Again, it does feel like the lost in the shuffle card, right? We just said the big one at UFC Macau. Everybody excited about being over in China. And then we come back to the United States, going to be at the White House next weekend, UFC Freedom 250. And then this card as well. So I don't want to undersell it because I do think Belal Muhammad, it's the reason why his nickname is Remember the Name. I always feel like he feels like maybe he's been slighted as a former champion here. But I wonder if the championship days are behind a guy like Belal Muhammad. And if he can't chain wrestle Gabriel Bonfim, if he can't, I don't know if you can get him out of there, but if you can't control him for the better part of 25 minutes, then we might have the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's a very interesting card. Actually, not a bad card, but it is an interesting main event as well. It does feel sandwiched kind of in between the hype of what's coming up next week, the weird time frame of last week's event. If anyone caught it at 1 a.m.
I did.
Good for you. I woke up too late again. I watched everything back. But it does feel, I think sometimes I wish, and once again, I'm not saying we need less events. Maybe less events could be better in the future, but it does feel when we have such a big event coming up next week, like UFC 250 Freedom, that if we took the week prior to just build that up, like I feel like the eyeball, it's kind of like we don't get a chance to miss what we have in front of us every single week. But, don't want to forget about this card. There's always an opportunity to bet every single weekend, and that's why we enjoy it.
By the way, I think that's an interesting point you bring up because, just in golf parlance as well, they've got a new guy running the PGA Tour now. He comes from the NFL model, and he's actually talked about exactly what you're talking about, Rob. He's going to scale back next year to kind of get you ready for some of the bigger events. So you do kind of, we didn't have golf for a week. Now I really miss it leading up to X event. Not saying that that's what Dana and Sean Shelby and the matchmakers want to do, but it would be interesting in theory. And we do get we get around the Christmas holiday, right? We get some multiple weeks off. It's kind of weird, the timing. Maybe they don't need to take multiple weeks, but you could take a week and lead up to a Freedom 250 card and see if it really gets that hype train going even more. But to this fight, I do find it interesting that total, as I mentioned with Shane, is sitting at 3.5. I would have, if you just told me, Rob, before looking at the numbers, what's the total? I would have said, it's 4.5. It's a Belal Muhammad fight. Of course, it's going to be lined at 4.5. And the surprise would be if you hit the under. So it almost feels like they're double dog daring us to play the over, which is sitting at $1.88. Heavy juice to the over here. But that does give you the inkling of, is there potential for a finish? And if so, does it only come from the Bonfim side?
It does make me think about it because you're right. I instantly gravitate to a decision victory either way, right?
Right away.
I'll talk about what the model likes, like most likely a decision. But the 3.5 makes me think there's potential for a finish somewhere. Who is it from? And you're right. I guess on paper you got to say Bonfim, but equally they both don't have a huge amount of finishes in the UFC. And I know Bonfim's coming off of one, but he's not exactly the most hard finisher in the UFC. And Belal, same thing. He hasn't had a ton of them. And it's hard to imagine Belal being finished either. Each guy's only been finished once in their UFC careers.
Right.
Actually, Bonfim only has one loss in his professional career, that being a finish. So it's an interesting total. Yeah, I'll look at, let me tell you the numbers and see if we land on a spot here for the total, because you've been hot on the total. So I'm hoping I'm part of the reason you're hot on the totals, because you were on fire last week.
Always helps, Rob. All the numbers the model has always helps.
One thing, and once again, something that leans me to think Belal is pushing this to the 5th round is that he's 37 years old now. I think he kind of sneakily got older, I guess, in my mind, because he became champ. Unfortunately, has 2 losses in a row now since losing the belt. Not exactly looking as impressive as he did when he went on this 10-fight win streak to get to a title shot. He lost the belt to JDM and then most recently lost to Machado Gary.
Yep.
Bonfim, on the other hand, is now 28 years old, 19-1 professional record, 4-fight win streak. Talk about 2 different momentums, right? You got a guy climbing the roller coaster, the other guy's on the downslope. It's a 9-year age gap. And the strength of schedule, of course, does go to Belal. He does have that championship run, that championship type of schedule. There has been a couple fights where we talk about the Bonfim Stephen Thompson fight, right?
Yep.
Where Stephen Thompson took him to a split decision. Some argue Stephen probably should have won that fight, but
Thought he might have won it.
yeah, my bankroll also wished he would have won it. But and their XR percentages also kind of point to the direction they're going. Neither one's awful, but Muhammad does have a 67% XR percentage, which a guy that was a former champion, there's a small tick coming down on that XR percentage. Bonfim, 73%, a guy who's winning rounds, showing he can produce the record he has. There's no shock there. Everything else is, as far as the feet go, it's very mirrored on each other. Belal Muhammad, 4.43 significant strikes landed per minute. Bonfim, 4.50. Absorbed, 3.82 for Muhammad, 3.61 for Bonfim. They're very close in their striking metrics. I don't believe there's a reach advantage either direction either. Their control rates, once we get to the wrestling and grappling, that's where we talk about, and we don't forget the name, Belal Muhammad. Right. 80% control rate in the clinch and ground time, but nothing to shy away from. Bonfim holds a 70%, so he does hold his own, but we know Muhammad has his strength in the clinch, ground game, all that stuff. The one note, though, is Bonfim does have a 76% takedown defense. Now, he hasn't faced someone like Belal. I believe Shane mentioned that.
Yep.
But Belal, talking about those last two fights, he has only landed 3 takedowns in his last 2 fights out of 16 attempts. He's not landing them the way he was, or he's just not attempting them, right? We talk about that JDM fight where he kind of decided he was going to strike.
He gave up.
Which he gave up, right? And not saying he's an awful striker. He had his moments in the fight, but it's not his main key. It's not his main weapon, so it just didn't work. And I wonder, and against Machado Gary, he went 0 for 7, and we know Gary's got good takedown defense as well, but is Belal starting to decline in the strength he once had? Now, as I mentioned, 37 years old, what are we going to get out of him? So running through the model, it does go to the former champion, Belal Muhammad. Remember the name. But we only get about a 61% win probability. The issue being his odds aren't bad. It's actually dropped down since I've run this, 122. Yep. But the model just doesn't see enough confidence in him, in his stats, to actually pull this win. It sees it very close. He lands, I've talked about the tiers, tier 1 being elite favorites for me. Tier 5 is where I kind of look to avoid guys. Tier 5's only hit about 56% in my model, and he lands right there. It's a reason to stay away from his money line. As I mentioned, even at minus 122, as approachable as that price looks, the model just tells me, hold off. Maybe the number continues to dip and we find something worth jumping on. But even at minus 122, I don't see a reason to bet him yet. This will be a fight. I will actually explore a couple props as the week goes, potentially takedown props and striking props, which we don't have available until much later in the week. But right now, the total is exactly where I'm looking if I do go.
I love the way you phrased it, the approachable number, because at first blush, that's exactly what I saw. I went, wow, why am I not running to the window yet to bet Belal Muhammad at this short price? He's going to chain wrestle Gabriel Bonfim. He'll get into the gas tank, wear him out, and eventually easily win just with takedowns and control, and, kind of mush his way to 25 minutes in kind of a classic Belal Muhammad fight. But, we said, of course, it's remember the name. I have to remember which Belal is now going to be in there fighting. Is it that guy that can still do those things that we just associate with the guy that became champion? Because I think your point is really well taken in the last 2 fights. That he's not been able to do that against elite competition. Now, is Bonfim that same guy, as good as those guys that we're talking about, Ian Machado Gary? No. JDM, no. But he did give up the attempts on a guy like JDM and said, all right, I got to fight fire with fire. I thought he held his own with the hands. But now, years removed from that fight, is he going to fight a slick boxer if he can't get the takedowns like Gabriel Bonfim in a phone booth in a really small octagon where Bonfim's going to be able to hit him and you're not going to be able that wouldn't be the attempt anyway for Belal. He'd have to get close. The closer it is, you would think it'd be better for Belal. But if he can't get takedowns that way, how close does he really want to be? So I think if Belal can get a takedown early, man, that's exactly what he wants. And maybe slow him down, get into the cardio, and that's his pathway to victory. But if we see stuffing of the takedowns early, I think we're going to have our answer inside of 5 minutes. If we haven't bet it pre-fight, we might want to hop in live, Rob, because if he cannot get those takedowns, there's no way I want to lay any price point with Belal Muhammad as a striker against Gabriel Bonfim.
Totally agree. I mean, that total, as enticing as it looks, it's definitely a hold position. And you're right. We may just get the story in the first round of what we're going to see. I think we say it all the time on the show. Looking for a fighter, expecting what he's going to do is one of the most dangerous things. And I think we've been holding that with Belal Muhammad his last few fights, is expecting him to just grind to the takedowns and get to a dominant position and just grind out 5 rounds. And he hasn't done that, and it's hard to trust him to do that again.
I mean, again, I was on the under in the main event last week at UFC Macau, and it was my thought process there was like, Figueiredo, does he really want to go 25 hard minutes with a guy like Song Yadong? Would he stick his neck out? I didn't see a submission. I never thought that would happen, but I do wonder here, Rob, if a similar thought process plays out with Belal, where he's getting beaten up with the hands, right? Or at least he's not winning the hands exchange, and he kind of dives in looking for a sloppy takedown. And that's where Bonfim, I wonder if a sub price could be available for a guy like Bonfim, which we might not look at today and think that's plausible, but I don't think anybody, I know I didn't think of it for Song Yadong in that same light to get a submission. I just wonder if guys that are used to going to the ground, like Davison Figueiredo, like a guy like Belal Muhammad, if they can't get it there, they get a little bit sloppy in the attempts, and that's where submissions could present themselves. Just throwing that out there.
Plus 450, Bonfim by submission, by the way.
not a bad number on Bonfim here. When you look at the co-main, and I think you've got to play, the model likes this here with Brendan Allen against Edmund Shabazi. And look, I like Brendan Allen a lot because I think he's very well-rounded. I think the question with betting a Brendan Allen fight, especially when he's a favorite here, about $2 or more, is where is he mentally? There are certain fighters in the UFC roster that I'd like to get a gauge of where they are mentally. I go back to Rose Namajunas and where her headspace is on her way to being champion and, you know, doubting herself a little bit. I get that feeling with BA at least a lot in the past of like, does he realize how good his skill set is? Does he really think he can be champion? Because if so, he would walk through a guy you'd think like Shabazi in here, survive early in the first 5 and then wear him out, and all the advantage you would think he would have, potentially both on the feet and then certainly on the ground as well. I feel like he feels like he should be better everywhere. What is the model showing you?
I've equally been on the wrong side of Brendan Allen because of that thought process, where I believe he should have gone out there and done something. And just him not believing in himself and the talent, and probably just not putting together the right game plan against a specific fighter, and ending up putting up a dud for me. But equally, he's now on a 2-fight win streak, probably because that mindset may have changed. And I mean, the names speak for themselves on those wins. Marvin Vettori, Reiner de Ridder, which, hey, at the time we thought de Ridder was
it's a good win,
the next coming of the middle of the champion. And he just bullied him around for 4 rounds until RDR said, I'm
That's
good. Count me out. No mas. But previously, Brendan Allen did have a 7-fight win streak before kind of going on that little skid where we thought he was next guy in line. Shabazian, 3-fight win streak currently, all 3 wins last year in 2025. Momentum is very real for both men, and I feel like that's what's on the line in this co-main event, is who's going to continue that path to building that momentum. Once again, physically, very identical, 6'2", 75-inch reach for both men. XR percentages, also nearly identical. Allen at 59, Shabazian at 60%. Nothing to write home about. They're both showing how they can win rounds. They're striking very tight as well. 3.58 for Allen, Shabazian 3.64 significant strikes landed per minute, and their differentials are dang near flat. So they trade shots equally with each other here. Knockdown scored. This is where Shabazian can have a little bit of a sneaky advantage, as he has 7 knockdowns scored in the UFC. Allen does have 3, but Shabazian's never been dropped. So Allen's been dropped twice. It's possible in a stand-up exchange, maybe something can land for Shabazian to take control. The issue is what happens on the ground, right? Because we know Brendan Allen, if he's got the game plan and set, that ground game, that pressure on the ground is really different in a fight. His control rate's only at 56% and Shabazian down at 46%. So Allen does have a little bit of an advantage there. They're both equally aggressive as far as how many takedowns they attempt in a round in the UFC. But Allen just has had a little bit more success. 44% accuracy, 21 takedowns in his UFC career. Shabazian does have some decent takedown defense at 66%, so it'll be all 66% of that will be tested here come in the co-main event. Submission attempts, that's where Allen keeps you guessing as well. Once again, if those scrambles happen, if they're up against the cage, what happens next? Submission attempts, 15 for Brendan Allen. They're both finishers. They both have been finished. So this is a very interesting fight where it's actually very similar to what we just talked about in the main event. If the script follows what we think we're supposed to see, I see a path for Brendan Allen to get this win. Here's the thing. The model does give him the side, Brendan Allen. I just don't like the price at minus 218, 63% win probability from the model. He also falls in that tier 5 category. So I know Shane said he's thinking about Edmund Shabazian, and I kind of see a path there because he's got the defense to keep the fight standing. And if it stays standing, he has the power to make a difference. He may not have higher output, but he's got the defense to keep it interesting. And if we get I was going to say 5 rounds, but if we get a 3-round striking match, I believe Edmund Shabazian can find his way there. Brendan Allen is what the model predicts. I currently am waiting to see if that number can shrink down a little bit more.
Yeah, and I see it the same way. I find myself rooting for Brendan Allen a lot and betting Brendan Allen a lot, but I don't know that this would be the type of fight that I'd want to, especially if it's a firefight with a guy like Shabazian early, right? And if he doesn't like the hands game, you can see, again, BA trying to get those sloppy shots in there because he's not enjoying it on the hands with Edmund. And I think that would be the strategy for Brendan, is to get the fight down to the ground and wear him out and look for a finish of his own late. So maybe correlated again, Shabazian early and BA late if you're looking for some of those prop scenarios. Against 1.5 is where this thing is lined right now. Juiced heavily to the over, but I could see, like, this is one of those fights, Rob, where I could see sneaky first round finish, where all of a sudden BA goes out there full of piss and vinegar and I can beat you with my hands, and he gets knocked out. Like, I could see that playing out on the dog side here. But the longer the fight goes, the more I'd favor the guy with a better resume, the guy that's been there in there with a better competition. And that certainly would be Brendan Allen. Has it been already 3 years since Chelsea Chandler literally ran away from Norma Dumont in the octagon? I think that got memed about for the last 3 years, right? Where she literally turned her back and looked like she was trying to run and get out of the octagon. And now she's going to be back in there against Priscilla Cachoeira in this fight here. And I'm wondering what the numbers are showing you, because Chelsea is a small favorite. I'm seeing what about $1.50 or $1.25 rather, and $1.05 on the plus side here for Cachoeira. That total, this is interesting in women's MMA at 2.5, but only $1.25. Normally, Rob, you're seeing prices around $2, $2.25. That is telling me that
if not higher.
They're not right. They're telling me they don't know that this is a coin flip fight on the side, and a coin flip fight that there could be a finish inside of 2.5 minutes. What are the numbers showing you?
I agree that it feels like anything is possible here, and these numbers kind of back up that anything is possible. And yes, I just checked; it's been 3 years since Chelsea Chandler was runner. Yeah,
run out of there.
It's funny because
I would have done the same thing, Chelsea. I would have gotten out there too.
Yeah, when I was looking up the fight, I'm like, Chelsea Chandler. Why does I feel like there's something specific about her resume?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, the Norma Dumont.
The Norma Dumont.
Now, I will warn people, this may not be the prettiest fight on paper, but I've got to play, so there's a reason to talk about it.
Let's go.
Priscilla Cachoeira, I feel like she has cashed some huge underdog tickets for people before, but she's also been heavily unimpressive before. Right now, 1 win in her last 5. She's on a 2-fight losing streak. Her last loss was a decision back in February. Chelsea Chandler, not that much greater. 2-3 in her last 5, 2-fight losing streak as well. And she also has 2 weight misses on record in that recent run. So Chandler will have a 3-inch reach advantage. So there's some physicality there. XR percentages, hold on tight, because this is not pretty. I flag anything below 50%, as we've talked about in the past. Chelsea Chandler, down at 36% XR percentage. I'm sure running around a cage doesn't help your XR percentage, but I don't know what Priscilla Cachoeira did. She's down at 19%.
Oh,
Dave.
my Lord.
She has lost more rounds than she's probably ever been in. She's probably losing rounds right now that we're not even accounting for. Let me tell you how you get there with those numbers. Significant strikes landed per minute. Priscilla Cachoeira, 4.43 landed per minute. Her differential is negative 3.17. She's absorbing 7.60 significant strikes per minute. Now, usually I've seen that, but in a small body of work, right? A UFC fighter with only 4 UFC fights, maybe 3, maybe they're making their debut. I've seen those weird numbers. she's got plenty of fights on her record.
Oh, yeah.
These numbers are an actual average of her UFC career. Chelsea Chandler, I'm not saying it's amazing, but it's not dangerously, red flagged here. Chandler lands 4.44 significant strikes per minute. She lands 3.55. She absorbs 4.44. So she's got only a slight negative differential. Now, Cachoeira does have power, though. We've seen it happen. She's landed 3 knockdowns in the UFC. Chandler has been dropped once, but Cachoeira equally has been dropped herself 3 times. Now, Chandler never has landed that type of power, but hey, sometimes a chinny fighter is all you need to believe I can land the right strike. Control rate, nothing to write home about for Chandler. It's 55%. It's not bad. She can at least find a way to use grappling and the ground if needed. Yeah. But Cachoeira, 6% control rate in the clinch and ground time. Wow. So if it's in close, if it's down on the ground, she's going to be losing that exchange, that grapple. She's going to be losing it. Now, there's a total of 5 takedowns between both fighters. So my assumption is this is probably a stand-up fight. Man, that XR percentage for Cachoeira, it's really the alarming part because it's across 13 fights. Her significant strikes absorbed is really alarming as well. I ran this through the model, and I was nervous because both fighters kind of have ugly numbers. It's one of those situations where if either one was facing anyone else, they're the one predicted against. Someone has to take a win according to the model. Chelsea Chandler gets the nod here. 79% win probability. Now, it's hard to jump as confidently at a fighter with those type of numbers, but sometimes I see this in the model, and it's not about who's the best, but it's who's not the worst in this scenario. Yes. And the numbers just point super against Priscilla Cachoeira. Everything backs Chandler. I actually backed her yesterday at -15, so I'm happy to see that the odds have backed me up, and it's now at -125. I don't know if it'll grow any bigger, but I got Chandler at -115, and I thought that was a great price.
I hate to say it, so it's really a hold your nose spot, but I love the price point and the promise that was Chelsea Chandler 4 years ago. It's never been realized in the UFC, but I'm glad you pointed out Cachoeira. We're not trying to poke at her, but the resume is not impressive. It really is not. And if Chelsea Chandler can't get a fighter like Priscilla Cachoeira out of there, or at least, again, there's potential for finishing here when you see the total sitting the way it is and the way that Cachoeira absorbs those strikes. You would think this would be the opportunity for Chelsea Chandler to look arguably her best that she's looked in the UFC come Saturday night. Feels like a tailor-made opponent. I will be on the Chandler side as well, willing to lay the $1.25. You got a really good number at $1.15. I really like that number where you are. I always like to make sure that where my leans are, sometimes that your numbers back them up, so I'm not going oppo. I've seen how that's worked out in the past. Not very well. So I'm glad that the numbers align because I do think this should be a spot for her. Very quickly, I'm looking at the Monkey King, Jordan Levitt back in here. Look, Joanderson Brito used to be a fighter I really loved to wager on with kind of his aggression. I just wonder if that aggression gets used against him in a guy like the Monkey King here in Jordan Levitt, who I think has gotten better as time has gone on and kind of realized, I know I'm never going to be great with the hands, but I can use that aggression against you. And I can see, standing mounts coming here and looking for rear nakeds from a standing position. Anything that you see in any of these other fights, and there's a top on the card. So, of course, I have to give you the floor if you want to bet against one of them.
As far as Levitt and Brito goes, it is an interesting fight. The model does lean Brito's side, but it's a hold position as well. It doesn't like his odds. He's just too big of a favorite. And you're right, Levitt is kind of a fighter that has been gradually improving as time goes. So, I always treat his numbers a little carefully because I know he's had some bad performances that kind of bring down his numbers. Because his XR percentage is actually pretty good considering he's not getting the nod here in the model. He has a 61% XR percentage. Brito's only at 52%. So that's kind of a flag for me, even though the model likes him. So the model liking a guy who's just at 50% as a -185 favorite or what he was, kind of puts -192 now on DraftKings. So definitely hold on that one. If I were to have to pick a side, I'd like that. And Tafa, since you brought him up, I heard you shout him out in the first segment with me. In all respect to Tafa, I don't, if I ever run into him, I apologize. I like the
nice
brothers.
Guy.
But he has quite a mountain against him, against Iwo, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Baranowski. Because that guy is an animal. I mean, he is out there to put you down and to knock you out. And I fear Tafa's in trouble. this one doesn't go officially in the model because Iwo doesn't have enough fights in the UFC.
Yep.
But I mean, Tafa got a win in his last fight, knockout, back in May of 2026. But let me point this out. He hasn't had what you would call a win streak since 2022, since he was 4-0 as a professional. Ever since then, he's had a loss, a win, 2 losses, a win, 2 losses, a win. I don't really trust him to pull this off as a huge underdog.
Yeah.
At least last fight, he was a favorite. I kind of agree with Shane in looking at that first round prop when that drops.
I see it the same way. I would be looking inside the distance and fade our second favorite Tafa brother here in Junior instead of Justin. Great stuff as always, Rob. Again, we can't wait. We'll be talking about it a lot next week here. The White House card. I'm coming out to Vegas this week, so you and I'll be able to watch these fights together on Saturday night. That's going to be a lot of fun here. We do appreciate Shane Thurston joining the program as well. And again, everybody, if you're not a VSiN Pro subscriber, you should be by now. Introductory offers, $9.99 for your very first month. We've got really good deals. $175 would cover you all the way through the Super Bowl next year. So pick your plan that works for you. It's not just UFC, obviously every sport. As we like to say, we got a guy or a gal for everything out there here at VSiN. So no better time than the present to become a VSiN Pro subscriber. But I cannot wait to break down Freedom 250 starting next week.
It's finally here.
Let's go, baby. Cannot wait to see what that White House is going to look like. It's going to be a spectacle, that's for sure. So for Shane Thurston, for Rob Moreno, I'm Dave Ross. Cash some tickets, and we'll see you next week right back here. First Strike on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.